Hello everybody and welcome back to Trilby's Notes. I am the Blues 32 and when last we left off we had escaped from the alternate hotel thanks to a helpful bottle of pills left by Agent Linkman. Look room. The toilets were so clean and well maintained that the very tiles of the floor seemed to glow with luminescence. The mirror above the counter was spotless and crystal clear. Wash face. I washed my hands of grime and splashed cold water onto my face, then dried myself quickly. Look mirror. I seemed somewhat pale, but otherwise fine. Open door. Ah. Look room. The dining room was rather small and sparse. It seemed the Clans Brahmin Hotel was only one step above a bed and breakfast. Oh, come on, this place looks pretty good. Don't knock it. Look posters. Three framed vintage advertisements for three brands of drink decorated the wall. If they were originals, they were probably quite valuable. Look room. The hotel bar seemed rather small, but then it was a rather small hotel. There were only two tables and some kind of defunct arcade machine. Look bar. Two small tables were arranged for guests. The bar was wood paneled and outfitted with an adequate selection of drinks and glasses. Look arcade. I think it was a pub quiz machine. A piece of white card on the screen declared that it was out of order. You're out of order. This whole game's out of order. Take posters. I had been through this. I was no longer a thief. Look room. The lobby of the Clans Brahmin Hotel did its best to appear welcoming. The reception desk was well polished and the pigeonholes were, while empty, were recently dusted. See, this place looks great. If it wasn't for the whole alternate dimension thing, I would love to stay here. It's spotless. Clearly the employees, put a lot of effort. Look, pigeonholes. Pigeonholes were empty. Presumably there weren't many people staying at the hotel. Isn't that where you keep the keys? Excuse me. Look room. There in the hotel's office was swimming with dust. The proprietors clearly felt that record keeping was more of a formality than a necessity. In the corner of the room was a diminutive but sturdy steel safe. Look papers. Useless piles of hotel maintenance paperwork and correspondence, no doubt. Look desk. There was virtually nothing on the desk, and it lacked a chair. Obviously, very little work was actually done here. Open desk. The only drawer was empty. Crack safe. I hadn't caused the cracked safes for some time, but my hands instantly went into automatic, the thieving mindset returning like an old friend. The job was done and the safe opened. My nostalgia faded into puzzlement when I found it empty. Just for once, I'd like to crack a safe that actually contained something. Is that so much to ask? Close safe. What? Close the door? You don't want people knowing somebody broke in. You're a thief, Trilby. You should know this. Look painting. I was frankly astonished that Matthew Defoe's painting had survived the immolation of Defoe Manor. As I stared at it, it seemed that the surrounding room began to blur until only the painting was in focus. I fancied I could hear the creaks and whispers of Defoe Manor's hallways, and I felt a bizarre urge to reach out and touch the painting. Touch painting. As I stepped closer, I could feel sound becoming muffled and my head spinning as if I were about to faint. My hand, as if pulled by an invisible string, reached out towards the clumsy brush strokes. Defoe Manor, July 28th, A.D., 1821. Matthew Defoe is 15 years old today. He is excitingly putting on the finishing touches to a painting which his father commented on encouragingly for the first time he has ever been in support of Matthew's artistic leanings. Matthew is now convinced that his father is lifting from the mysterious depression that had plagued him for as long as either of them can remember. Now he intends to make the painting absolutely perfect before showing it again. Master Matthew, Sir Roderick has requested your presence in the trophy room. Thank you, James. And if you would be so good to inform him that I will be retiring for the night. Very good, James. There you are, boy. Let me introduce my son, Matthew. Hello. This is my friend Mr. Smythe. He's an expert on African tribal art. Well, just a scholar, hardly even that. Just someone with an interest in the subject. And he has offered to assess the figurine I brought back from my travels. I wasn't aware you had a family, Sir Roderick. Is your wife home, too? Regrettably, Belinda is no longer with us. Oh, I'm sorry. Quite all right, you couldn't have known. She succumbed to illness shortly after Matthew was born. I finished the painting I showed you, Father. Oh, good. Well, Mr. Smythe, what do you think of the piece? It's an intriguing little puzzler, actually. The design is reminiscent of a few Central African tribal gods I'm aware of, but to be honest, I've never seen anything quite like this before. May I ask how you acquired it? I'm glad you asked. It was 20 years ago when I was a younger man on my first travels to the Dark Continent. We were traveling along the west coast when our bears spotted a ship that had run aground. It was an English clipper named the Sea Angel, and a short exploration revealed that every single crewman had just disappeared. Of course, we immediately sent a letter to the nearest embassy to report the finding. But the point is, it was on the lowest deck of the ship that I found the very figurine you see before you today. What an extraordinary tale. But how do you account for there being an African tribal carving on a British vessel? We were as confused as you were. It wasn't a slave trading vessel, but there must have been a Negro on the crew. It has been a personal mystery of mine ever since. I was hoping you could shed a little light on the matter. But there is more to tell. I haven't even begun to recount the strange events that have surrounded the artifact. Would you care for a glass of brandy? Thank you, that would be most kind. Matthew, fetch the brandy from the kitchen, and some glasses. Yes, Father. Look, room. Defoe Manor's kitchen was small and somewhat sparsely furnished in contrast to the wealth of the house as a whole. Besides the sideboard, the only furniture was a large wooden table and a narrow drinks cabinet in the corner. Look, knives. A selection of knives were arranged conveniently above the sideboard. One of them was Sir Roderick's old jungle machete, which he liked to keep there as some sort of joke. Look, table. Above the sideboard there was a row of assorted utensils and knives. Someone had left a brown leather apron on the kitchen table. Look, apron. It was a tough, well-used leather apron. Matthew wondered which member of the staff had been using it. Look, mask. A smoked mask, the sort of thing used by metal workers, hung from the west wall. The gardener liked to keep it there as some kind of souvenir from his younger days. Look, drinks. Matthew stared blank. Look, brandy. The bottle was almost full. Sir Roderick had been drinking less and less lately. Well, that's great. Take brandy. Matthew took the brandy bottle and a pair of appropriate glasses. Hello. You haven't tried to speak to me in a while. I did another painting today. I showed it to Father and he said it was promising. I keep trying to tell him about you, but he never listens. You haven't knocked for me in so long I was beginning to wonder. Hey, do you want to see my painting? Just not sure how to get it through the door. Slide painting under door. I'm pushing the painting under your door, okay? Just give it back when you're finished. How dare you, sir? You intrude on my hospitality and insult my judgment? That's Father. Get out of my house, you worm! I'd better see what's the matter. Knock on door. Perhaps Matthew should try rephrasing that. Get painting. Matthew doubted that he could have taken that with him. Ask for painting. Matthew was talking to himself. Yes, that was the case. Open door. Father? Oh, it's you. Father, what happened? I heard shouting. That old fool told me some rubbish about my figurine. Said the only tribe it could have come from all died in slavery years ago. Actually had the nerve to accuse me of buying from a forger. I'm sorry, Father. What are you apologizing for? Where's the damn brandy? I've got it here. Give it to me. I'll go back to my room, Father. Show me your painting. Father, you said you had a painting. Show it to me. I can't, Father. And why not? Because... Come on, why not? Out with it! Because I gave it to the boy behind the door. I see. Father, go back to your room, boy. I have to write my diary entry. Yes, Father. An hour of silence passed, and Matthew grew concerned about his father. Strangely, the most disturbing thing had been Sir Roderick's reaction to Matthew mentioning the boy behind the door. In the past, raising this had usually provoked a violent rage or an instant flat denial. Matthew wondered what sort of anxiety was going through his father's mind. Smash! What was that? Father, what are you doing? Look door. There were 3 doors here. The one to the east led to the dining hall and the rest of the house. To the north was the pantry, and to the west was the door Matthew had never been through, which was kept permanently locked. On closer examination, it appeared that the forbidden door was hanging ajar. Was Sir Roderick through there? Open door. Matthew was confused by his own reluctance. He had longed to see what was behind this door his entire life, but now, given the chance, he was struck with fear. He peered cautiously through and saw a set of rough stone steps leading down to some kind of basement. I should have done this the moment you came into this world, demon child. May God forgive me for having a part in your creation. Father, what are you doing? Do you see what you've done? I didn't want him to see this! Do you see what you've done? Father, no! Father! Father! Ooh! My apologies, dear boy. I couldn't resist. You look so lost in that painting, I don't think you even saw me come in. What? Is everything all right, Terry? Yes, everything's fine. It's just for a moment there I thought I saw... Never mind. Saban and I, were talking about you after it seemed like something was making you terribly anxious. Frankly, I think that's still the case. I'm okay, really, I am. Well, if you're sure. I was certain my mind had not been playing tricks on me. I had been back there in Defoe Manor, looking through the eyes of Matthew Defoe. I had seen the events that had created John Defoe. I saw his death at the hands of Sir Roderick, that terrible, violent end that would bring him back as that awful wraith. But somehow, seeing that event, it was clear to me there was more to this than the ghost of one retarded youth. There had been something very wrong about that idol even before it was used to destroy John Defoe. The name stood out in my memory. The Sea Angel. The name of the ship on which Sir Roderick had found the figurine. I now had a lead. Professor, do you know anything about a ship called the Sea Angel? You know, it's funny you should mention that name. There's a really old wooden chisel among the Defoe Manor artifacts. And the word Sea Angel are carved into the handle. Where is this chisel? Oh, on display in the convention hall next to the dining room. What's this all about, Terry? Oh, it's nothing. It's just a little side project my client wants me to get onto. Thank you for your help. No problem. Take care of yourself. Look, painting. Someone had stuck a piece of paper under the frame, perhaps for me to find. Take paper. It was a page from a religious handbook I wasn't familiar with. I here enclose it with these notes. Victim 5. The child. The fifth man who desired judgment was the child whose father held the carving of the slave. The prince came to him and at once rightly pleased with what he found, for the house of the child and his father already knew well the name of the king. And as the prince watched, the child was thrown down by his father and broken with the wood of the prince's soul. But as the child's body, mind, and soul began to drift apart, the prince held them together, and he said, "You are the child, and to you I grant power, for I see in you the potential that will grant my father the king his greatest wish. You shall be not of the land of technology, nor of the realm of magic, but of both, and thus you shall form the bridge. And across the bridge the king shall come to bring his message to the men of technology. Through you, child, the bridge will come, and thus I name you the Bridge Keeper." And the prince touched the child, and he was the Bridge Keeper, and his 3 aspects were granted power, so that his soul would join with the prince's soul in the wood of the tree. And the Bridge Keeper rose up, and threw down his father, and threw down his brother, and truly did they know the name of the king. And into the house of his father went the body and the mind of the Bridge Keeper. Huh. Look. Counter. The reception desk was a cheap pine affair, and adorned with papers unadorned with papers or materials. Someone appeared to have left a matchbox on the desktop. Take matches. Only 1 match left. I took it anyway. Open door. It appeared to be locked, probably by a deadbolt on the other side. Open door. Ah, what a lovely day. Look through hole. Peering through the nearest hole, I saw a small enclosed yard with a workbench and tools. Look. Fire escape. A simple network of gantries and ladders with an entrance on each floor, just like a fire escape was supposed to be. My allergy is starting to bother me. Huh. Take No time for that now. Look, fire door. Look, door. The door at the far end was colored differently to the others. Excuse me. Excuse me again. A note read, Emergency Fire Escape Access. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Do not attempt to force. In the event of fire, door will unlock automatically. Light match. Open door. I pushed my way through the door and descended the fire escape. Look, table. It was probably used for garden maintenance, tool storage, that sort of thing. An iron crowbar was the only tool being stored at the time. Take crowbar. I took the crowbar with me. Perhaps it could serve a purpose. Look, crowbar. It was an old rusty crowbar with the strength of which I was seriously unsure of. Climb. Well, now I have the means to enter the door. Sort of. We can't pry it open from this side. But perhaps there's another way. Use crowbar on boards. As I had suspected, the stress proved too much for the ancient crowbar, which was bent to uselessness. I discarded it. Take pill. Open door. Ta-da-da! Unlock door. Whatever. Take bottle. I took the drink with me. Something told me it could come in useful. Look, chair. An involuntary shudder went through me as recognition dawned. It was the same chair from the living room in Defoe Manor, the room I had opted to sleep in for those 5 days. Look, room. Excuse me. Professor Chahal's antique show was as sparse as its small venue would indicate. A couple of tables were laid out with various trinkets, and a charred rocking chair was the centerpiece. Look, chisel. It was a very old make of chisel, rusted and probably very fragile. As the professor had described, the words Sea Angel were carved into the handle. Again, I found myself inexplicably drawn to the artifact. My fingertips were already extending towards it, as if drawn by a magnet. Touch, chisel. A loud buzzing played in my ears, and my vision began to cloud as I reached over and laid my hand upon the tool. Somewhere in the Atlantic, July 25th, A.D., 1789. But Matoba? No, not Matoba. Babota? Babota had been a great warrior. In battle, his skill was thought unmatched in all of Africa. By him. He had had respect, a great house, a slew of beautiful women, and children to make any father proud. But through just one mistake, it had all been torn away. His mistake was in standing by his beloved king when the invaders from the coastal kingdom arrived. Now his great house was in ruins, his women raped, his children murdered. And for Matoba Mit, Mit, Mibota. Yeah, sorry about that. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong still, but Mibuta. The worst fate of all. Sold to the white men in exchange for weapons. Shackled with his fellows in the hold of a slave ship. Mibota, Mibota was strong. Perhaps he could have lived as a slave. But then came the sickness. A simple fever, no doubt to be gone the next day, but the white men took no chances and threw him overboard. For days, Matoba drifted, waiting for the black cloud of death to descend. Having lost everything, he now sought only the embrace of the deep and a welcome end to a life betrayed. Well, then he should stop clinging onto that board. But the end did not come then. Coming around, Captain. Voices, unfamiliar, speaking an unfamiliar language. Mabota was suddenly terrified that the slavers might have returned, but he was as weak as a newborn, and could not move or speak. Looks like we picked him up just in time. Don't know how long he's been drifting out here, but he can't have lasted much longer. Good Lord. Look upon it, men. The greatest evidence we have of humanity's inherent evil. Never forget that men, sailors such as you or I, did this. Left this poor wretch to die. Slavers aren't sailors like you and I, Captain. No. I do not know how those devils can have the audacity to still call themselves human. Today, there is no pride in being an Englishman. Find our new passengers some quarters. Make him comfortable. Passenger, Captain? Every innocent who sets foot on my ship is a free man. Is there something about this policy you find questionable? Not at all, Captain. No, these were not the slavers. The ship was different, less crowded with terrified black faces. There was anger in the voices of the white men, but not directed towards Mibota. Still frightened, but somewhat reassured, Mibota passed out. Days passed, and Matoba's health was restored. To have been rescued by these good white men had been a fantastic stroke of good fortune. He decided that it had been the will of the gods that he should survive, and that proper thanks would be in order. An idol, that was the answer. If he could find something sharp, some suitable wood and a sharp blade, he could carve the finest idol of his life. Climb ladder. Look crate. A large crate was sitting on the shaft in the shaft of light, with letters stenciled on that Matoba did not recognize. Yeah. It was cheaply made, with poor quality nails, and some of the boards looked ready to fall off. The wood of the crate seemed ideal for Matoba's intentions. He decided to leave it here until he was ready to carve the idol. How's it going, guys? Look, tools. Blech. Point to chisel. Alright there, laddie. I see you want something to carve with. Here. The sailor handed Mibota a sharp, almost brand new workman's chisel tool. Yeah, just bring it back when you're finished with it. Right neighborly of you, sir. I will do just that. Carve idol. With the chisel and the wood of the crate, Mibota could finally create his offering. After several hours, Bobota was very pleased with the result, a fine rendition of his kingdom's god of fertility and good fortune. All that remained now was to return the chisel. Bobota decided the idol was fine where it was. There was no need to move it. Climb. It hurts. Listen. Look. Blood. It hurts. Climb. It hurts. Dive overboard. It hurts. Alright then, I'll just be going now. Ah, my eye! The vision faded and I felt myself being hurled forcefully back into the present day. That tall, thin creature, that black-clad ghoul. What was its significance to my predicament? Why did it appear again and again throughout history to spread death and horror? There was no connection to the idol's shape or Matoba's tribal deities. The tall man was no fertility god. It must have been connected to the wood of that crate somehow. There had been a name on that crate. Bobota hadn't been able to read it, but I, looking through his eyes, had. O'Malley Shipping. Could the owner have been an ancestor of Saban? It was a flimsy possibility, but at that point it was my only lead. I resolved to discuss this with Saban at the earliest opportunity. Take paper. I recognized it as being from the same source as the one under the painting in the lobby. Victim 4. The slave. The fourth man who desired judgment was the slave, who had not been brought Freehorn's message, and who tormented the wood that was the prince's soul with a sharpened blade. The prince came to him and struck the slave down, and he knew the name of the king. And the prince said, "Not one of your household shall I leave alive, slave, for thrice now have I brought my warning, and any who still fail to heed shall be named as fool and judged most unworthy in our sight." Okay then. It seems rather extreme. But yeah, okay. Wipe out his whole family, even though, according to him, his whole family's already been wiped out. I guess he's just being lazy. Anyway, I'm the Blues 32. This is Trilby's Notes. TTFN. Ta-ta for now.